I literally have to write down where they're from. Otherwise, I forget.
Well, that's what I love about, like, the pandemic has brought that out where you
Yes,
meet these people from around the world, and
you do.
it's such a great connection that you have. Now, granted, it's two-dimensional, but it's still better than nothing. It's still better than never ever knowing that they exist, right?
Right.
And you know what my biggest thing is, and I've been very conscious of all my life, obviously with my name and Orly with your name, I'm sure you experience the same thing, is
Uh-huh.
how often do you just smile through it all when someone just brutalizes your name?
You'd be surprised. I mean, Orly Zeewy, I mean, it's so simple, and yet people add E's and W's, and you know, it amazes me how you can butcher such a simple name. But yes, people do it all the time.
You know what? I'm okay with being called Saya, even though it's Sia, but I've been
I
called
knew it was
Sylvia.
yeah.
Oh, I've been called Sylvia, Sierra. I'm like, those letters don't even exist, and I don't understand what you're saying to me. Like, what's going on? But
Right.
hey, you know what though? I think that's more about reading than listening. And you know, it's listening to us right now. The mic is listening. Are you ready to kick this off, Orly?
I am ready.
Let's do this.
The mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
The mic is
The
listening.
mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
listening.
The mic is 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 listening.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to The Mic is Listening. My name is Tia, and today we have a wonderful guest today that has been so gracious to join us, Orly Zeewy. Welcome to The Mic is Listening. Zeewy. Oh my God, I just heard your name.
Didn't we just have a conversation about the whole naming thing? It's totally fine. See ya, no worries.
No,
Thank you so much. No, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
You know, it's so funny when we first chatted it up. I just knew with your energy and vibe, I was like, you know what? Normally, I'm not going to lie to you, I get a little leery with authors in general because oftentimes I feel like all they want to do is promote their book and there's no real connection. You know what I mean? And granted, I'd love to be a conduit to help promote great authors and speakers like yourself. But with you, I was like, I want to get on a megaphone and I almost said a word that I don't think is allowed to promote you like I can promote like no other. So thank you.
Thank you. That's very much appreciated.
Well, you're very welcome. So, you know, as always with a live stream, and I play around with these settings and whatnot, I always laugh at myself because I just want to go on record. Yes, I produce podcasts, but no, I'm not your editor or engineer. Just heads up, everyone. So, I do want to say one thing about this, and I want to preface this in. So, I'm going to cut you out real quick, Orly, because I want to preface our conversation today, if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
And I'm going to affectionately call this the Who Are You segment. So let's talk about this. Who are you? And when I was talking to Orly, and we're talking about entrepreneurs and launching your own business and developing and cultivating that personality, the who are you of a business, the who are you of a personal brand. And it got me thinking because I've heard this so many times, and I've actually said this to clients when we're developing their podcast is, who are you? And my business partner, Erin, was, she's laughing because one of the things that she was thinking of in her path to personal branding and branding for her businesses has been, well, who are you to do XYZ? Which I thought was a very interesting take on who are you. So today, I want everyone to think of keeping an open mind because who are you is such a difficult question to ask yourself and to answer for yourself. And ultimately is who are you as in what do you want to represent for yourself, for your personal and professional brand could actually be two separate things. Now, of course, connecting the two is going to be a layer of authenticity to ensure that your personal and your professional brand has some level of bridge or connection. And that makes sense to your audience, whoever you're targeting. But keep that in mind because sometimes your corporate brand may not necessarily be exactly your personal brand. Case in point, I am a podcaster. I am a strategist. I talk to clients all the time about, podcasting as a tool to leverage their marketing strategy and to help highlight and quite frankly, put some content out there that's fast, quick, and easy to distribute. My personal brand is all about music, and life is too short. What's that Costa Rican saying? Pura vida, right? Just live the life and enjoy it. That's my personal brand. Granted, professionally, if I'm going to a Fortune 500 and have that laid back attitude, there might be a certain amount of credibility questions of, can you actually deliver, execute on what our strategies are about? So I'm throwing that out there as an example of who are you. Some of the challenges that you might want to address is your personal, your professional branding, but then also dig deep into yourself. I call this the fire in your belly. Simon Sinek is the why. This helps you formulate that foundation of what's going to set the tone for everything future on. And so that's pretty much what I want to talk about today with Orly, because she's done this so many times. Serial entrepreneur. She's adjunct professor of so many different universities. I mean, let's be honest. Orly knows what's up, and Orly gets it. And so, again, I do want to say welcome back. Now that I can properly bring back Orly Zeewy. Thank you. Orly.
Thank you so much. I have to say I love that question, because I literally that's all I do. That's all I do all day long, is I help people figure out who they are, and not only that, but figure out why it matters and who it matters to. Because what entrepreneurs, and especially when you're first starting a company, you tend to think, oh my God, I need to talk to everybody because I need business, and let me just get everybody here. And what I do is, in this process, this build a brand process that I've developed, it's really about getting clear on the DNA of your brand. So the first thing is, what do you believe? What's your core value? And I find it really interesting that so many companies have like a whole list of core values, which honestly is not core values at all. It's really just, this is how we do business. I mean, if you have to tell people that great customer service is a core value, I have to question that, because if you didn't have great customer service, you'd be out of business. So, but a real core value, and I use this actually as an example in my book. The only people who can say that's their core value is when they live it. And it's interesting because Nordstrom's is very big on that, customer service, and they're notorious for taking back things. And you don't need a receipt. Each of the people who wait on you are literally empowered to give you back whatever you're asking for, because in their mind, that's their number one goal, is to make sure the customers are happy. So the story that I shared in the book is one where, and truth be told, the Nordstrom store used to be a tire store. So you can kind of understand the sequence that comes next, which is literally somebody coming into a Nordstrom store and rolling into the store 2 tires and asking for their money back. Now, Nordstrom's has never sold tires.
Yep.
The man did not have a receipt. It had not been a tire store in a long time, and they gave him back all his money. No questions asked. That is customer service.
And that is the customer service experience. I think that is what we need to really talk about, right? Because it's not just simply saying, hi, welcome. I get that, but it's how they make you feel. It's almost like those conversations, right? No one's going to remember what you said, but they will always remember how you make them feel.
Right. Maya Angelou. Yeah.
Yes, that's my aunt. Yes. Oh, I knew I was like well-read somewhere, but
she's fabulous. Yeah. She says people may not remember what you said. They may not remember how you said it, but they'll always remember how you made them feel.
And this is where you're tying back to your core values from a brand perspective of, again, that why. And I've actually talked to clients about this. Is they're like, oh, why? Well, why? I want to grow my social media following, or I want to get more leads. And I'm like, that's not a why. A why to me, that's a what, by the way. If you're ever planning on what you want to accomplish with your, again, for me in my world, it's podcasting. That's a KPI, key performance indicator. The why, though, is when you have to dig deep into your soul, sit down on your couch, lay back, and pretend there's a psychiatrist or psychologist right there. And that's your why. That's when you have to get to the root of everything, right? Why do you do things? For some people, it is, their family, and there's a reason behind their family experience, right? My dad told me I could never do something. Well, now that's my fire in life, is I can do everything. That's, to me, a why. Full disclosure, my dad has always been supportive. He never did that. Just to be clear.
Right.
But okay, so
yeah.
I apologize. So Orly, what I want to do, I didn't properly introduce you because you are the author of a book that I'm so excited about myself because I see so much. I just like nod yes, everything you talked about so far, and I can't wait to read it all and absorb it. Is you are the author of Ready Launch Brand, and this is what I thought was really awesome. It is the lean marketing guide for startups, not a marketing guide for startups, not
Right.
a 5,000 page, tome on the essence of marketing. This is like, you need to get to your root quickly, faster, more efficiently. So talk to me. Why did you create this book, and who prompted you to put pen to paper?
So that's always such an interesting question for me. So it took me 5 years to get this book out, and now I wasn't writing it the whole time, but I interviewed 25 entrepreneurs. So it took a couple of years to do all the interviews, to find the entrepreneurs and interview them, and then find a publisher and do that piece, and then about a year of editing, and then the pandemic hit. So it was actually supposed to come out in 2020, and as so many of us, our plans changed. But as it turns out, it's actually a good year to be putting a book out like this, because during the pandemic, there was an uptick of number of startups. And on average, you have about 500,000 companies are launched every month in the US alone. That's just in the US. It's amazing. And 8 out of 10 are going to fail within the first 5 years. So, for me, the book, and it's interesting you mentioned your dad. So my dad was an entrepreneur. He's retired, long retired, but I come from a long line of entrepreneurs on my father's side. And, what I learned as the child of an entrepreneur is that the success of the entrepreneur impacts the family. So for me, it's very personal. If I can help a startup succeed, that means I'm helping another little girl somewhere have a better quality of life. And so it really hits that deep for me. And I think it's why I started thinking about it from a business perspective. What I had noticed, because I've been consulting startups for a long time, I kept seeing the same problems over and over and over again. And I kept thinking, there's all these like misconceptions around marketing. And the reason, it's very intentional why I called it the lean marketing guide for startups, because when people think of marketing, what they tend to think about is traditional marketing. Like, we should do advertising. And it's like, one of the things that I've said over and over again to startup founders is, please don't advertise. It is a waste of money. Advertising does not work when you're starting a company, because nobody knows you. You can't advertise something that nobody knows. They don't trust it. They don't get it. They don't understand it. What I really focus on is helping you get traction, to get brand awareness, because that is the first step to all success for business, is people actually have to know you exist.
Yep.
Then they have to want to come back, and that breeds loyalty. And then they tell other people about it, and that builds brand equity, which is the value of the brand. Once you have enough people who want this, who want to tell other people about it, right? So the book is really focused on, first dispelling some of these marketing myths. And I would say my favorite is, we'll pay for marketing when we have money to pay for marketing.
Oh my goodness gracious, honey, preaching to the choir there. Oh my
Right?
goodness gracious.
How do you think you're going to have money for marketing?
I cannot tell you how many times where they're like, look, we just got to get some product out, and we need some sales. And it's like,
yeah,
okay. And I've said this many times, people do business with people with whom they know, like, and trust.
absolutely.
And the way to build that is to have some kind of emotional connection and tie to whatever it is that you are offering. Are you solving a problem that is going to emotionally connect with their pain point, whatever it might be, right? For me, if someone can solve doing laundry as much as efficiently as possible without an intrusive person in my house handling my, bit net, if you will, I would be in for it, right? Because that's, to me, a pain point that I feel very viscerally on. And but I'd be more than happy to pay for that service if that's something that's, available. But again, like I said, I had some caveats. I don't want someone that's, in my business, if you will, but if it's automated or if it's like a robot. But then again, at the same time, is that robot creepy? Because I don't want to look like that Boston Dynamic dog walking in my house. You know what I'm saying? So, there's a lot of things, but that connection, right?
Right.
That's the, and here's a perfect example, Boston Dynamics, right? They make these incredible robots that look extraordinarily frighteningly sci-fi like, but their brand, they are considered, the future. They are considered, those cutting edge folks that are going to pave the way of what we're going to expect in animated things, whatever you want to call them, robots, I guess. And there's a good and bad to it. But yet, because of their product, they've created a community that has this dialogue of, when do you stop making these lifelike things, and are they going to be used for good, bad, whatever? And good, bad, or indifferent, everyone knows who Boston Dynamic is, which has nothing to do with Boston Dynamic name. And I said their name like 15 times. They should pay me. It has nothing to do with, like, if you heard Boston Dynamic, it could be a running shoe company, right? And that's what's interesting, is that they've been able to create a community. Again, their branding and recognition, but the name of their company is rather bland.
So, it's funny that you mentioned the name, because I have a whole chapter on identity. And I use, I interviewed one of the founders who's featured in the chapter, talks about the fact that they, that they changed they came up with the name originally, and he talks about how the evolution of that name, but it was the logo that really didn't fit them. And so what he talks about is this idea that the heart of the brand didn't make sense. And so they had to give themselves a heart transplant, which I just thought, it's like one of my favorite quotes in the book. But, to your point, I think, one of the things that happens in this work is that people, they just want to get to the end, right? And they think that magically they're going to figure this out. And what I have found is, you do not magically figure out who you are as a brand, because you're too close to it.
Yes.
And if your focus is on sales, then you become a solution looking for a problem, instead of look for a problem that you can uniquely solve. And that's really the work that I do. I help you really figure out, not just who you are, but who is your ideal customer. Because again, it's not the whole world. Because also from a marketing standpoint, you do not have enough money to market to the whole world. And especially as a startup, my advice is always start small and build from there. Try not to, and then it goes into messaging, because another thing that I talk about is, if you talk to everyone, you're talking to no one. And so being really, really intentional about who you want to bring into your brand. And it's this idea of starting in a conversation, engagement. We talk a lot about that now. But and I see that especially on homepages. Homepages are where good ideas go to die. I mean, it's just like, oh my God, I cannot tell you how often I land on a homepage and I think to myself, I have no idea what you do. I have no idea if it has anything to do with something I care about. And I don't even know where to go with this, right? It's just so overwhelming. There's just so much content. And it gets back to this idea that people are worried that somehow they're going to forget something. So they try to just put everything on their home.
Yes. It's like that box of chocolates, right? You only give one at a time. You don't just slam the whole thing in someone's face like a pie or anything like that, right? And I think you just nailed it on messaging. And by the way, you just gave me a what do you call that? A light bulb moment. It almost would imply then that someone lives up to their moniker as being the facilitator of light bulb moments. Can I just tell you, I saw that as your profile header on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
That captured my attention. Like I knew exactly who and what you were based on that, right? I know speaker, author, to me, that's a credibility establishment, but facilitator of light bulb moments, where the heck did that come from?
I have to tell you, I did not come up with that. A friend of mine said to me, this is maybe 5 years ago, she goes, Orly, this is what you do. You're a facilitator of light bulb moments. You help people get to their aha moment. And I've been doing it for a long time. And I've had people literally say to me, oh my God, I never thought of it that way. Right. And so I can't take credit for it, but once I started saying it, it was just like, yeah, that's exactly what I do. And by the way, if someone reads that and it doesn't mean anything to them, they're not my client. And that's something exactly that. And see, this is the piece that people don't realize. It's not just about clarifying who you want to work with, but it's also about avoiding tire kickers, not having people who don't have any need for what you do, and then spending all this time and energy and money, resources to try to get somebody to buy something that they don't even want. So it's not, it's not about tricking people, right? People, that I love this, the saying, which everyone wants to buy, but nobody wants to be sold.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
and it's really true. It's we just we want to figure it out. Like, we want to engage, we want to discover, right? We really want to learn. So this idea of this, like, very transactional experience has really been, this is what I have seen as a real shift in the last 10 years to really become much more of an experiential, um, kind of an experience to, again, discover what you do and to decide on my own time, right? Without feeling the pressure, but deciding, is this something that's going to make my life better? Is this something that's going to, if I'm, one of the things I talk about with my clients is always, I want to help you figure out what keeps your client up at night.
Mm. That's a great question, right? I mean, it could be so many different things that keep them up at night. And I think understanding that as well is
Right.
extraordinarily important, right? Because it doesn't necessarily mean just a business perspective. So there's so much of our personal lives that creep into the professional lives that I think with the pandemic, you tell me, this is me just anecdotally seeing this, is I'm noticing more attention being paid to the broader perspective of life. So with client interaction, it's not just simply, hey, my background's in technology. So, hey, your server is out of date and you need more RAM, blah, blah, blah. You want to process things more effectively. Those conversations don't exist anymore. It's more along the lines of, hey, noticing that, your time efficiency, if you can manage less, automate as much as possible, is that going to help you spend more time with Billy? And those conversations didn't exist.
Yeah, that gets to, I think, to this idea that it's not just about understanding one little piece of your client's experience. You need to really understand their whole journey. And what I talk about is, how do you, because this is really what I do. I help you become the hero in your customer's journey. Because if they're truly having this pain point and all these, these other things are kind of coming to bear, then you be able to, understanding that and coming to them from that perspective of really having empathy for their experience helps also develop messaging that's not robotic, and it gets away from, we provide great customer service. It's like, yeah, okay. But instead, if you're Nordstrom's, they don't just provide it, they live it. This is their reason for being. It's their why every single day. And it's not just the person who runs the company, but it's everyone at every level. So as you get bigger, that piece becomes so much more critical, because now you have more people and they have to understand why they show up at work, and how what they do fits into this. So this idea that it's about language, and it's about also really aligning your vision with kind of this clarity around who you are and how your particular piece in this, like, as all of us are connected, right? So in the company, every person has a role to play, and if you can see it as kind of a part that you're part of a bigger whole, you're also, retention goes up, you have less issues with attrition, and you have more engagement. And as the millennial population is now, becoming more the majority,
they are. Yeah.
They already are, right? So, that's what keeps, if you want to know what keeps millennials excited about being at work, is they want to do something meaningful. They want to be part of something. So the more you can communicate that in a way that really engages them, the more likely they are to not just stay, but help you build whatever it is that you've built. And that's really, I think that's the long view.
You've nailed so many things here. And actually, we've got Eddie here that mentioned as well, is partnership, right? That there's a real partnership, I think, is one of those terms that gets abused, right? Because in partnership, there's an assumption of a client and vendor type relationship being collaborative, right? But the reality of it is, as you've mentioned, with the millennial generation, and quite frankly, the Gen Zs now are in the mid-20s, right? Their desire for having real, lasting, meaningful impact in the development of an organization, whether it's yours or in collaboration with their client, if you will. It's really interesting seeing that shift of, and I've said this saying before, and I'll say it again, and I love saying it, is all ships rise with the tide, right? I'm seeing a much more of a nuanced dance between these types of working relationships that you're seeing them saying, look, we're going to climb this tree together, and we're going to hold each other and support each other, and I'll be your, oh my gosh, I'm not a climber, so I'm messing this up, but I'll hold your rope for you, and as you lock your carabiner in, type thing, right? And it's together, not, and I've said this also, not a hunter, hunting a client. Like, oh, I've got my prey, I'm going to go after that. It's very interesting. Like, it's a mind shift. And are you seeing more of that now, Orly, when you're as your clients? I'm a Gen Xer that everyone keeps forgetting exists, but are you seeing a shift a little bit more from the boomers to the Gen X to the millennials? Is it obvious big swing? Everyone compares boomers and millennials, but don't you think the Gen X's are a bit of a transition between these two generations too, to kind of help facilitate this mind shift?
Well, what people focus on is the whole digital aspect. So millennials are the first digital natives. And that's part of why they got more of the press than Gen Xers, because they were still in transition to that. And then, of course, Gen Zers, my sons are Gen Zers, and they, they grew up with technology. They don't know any other way. But what I believe is really kind of the sweet spot of all of this is that we can learn from each other. That I think each of us, each generation brings something to the table. But I will say that the big shift I have seen is since millennials entered the workforce, because once that happened, then, it was this whole idea that, don't sell me, help me discover. Don't sell me. They don't want to be sold. And they also, by the way, they don't trust native content. They trust the content that's being created by your community, which is why building a community is such a big part of this. That if you don't engage, then it's just you talking into the void. And millennials don't trust that. So yeah, on your website, you can say all kinds of things, which of course is one of the reasons why I always tell people, get testimonials. Yes. Because it's not just about you, your credibility. That for me is a given, that you know what you're doing. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing this. So trying to sell me on your merit feels a little bit odd. Like, what I want to learn is, what is the impact? So don't talk to me about the process. Don't tell me how you make the cheese. Tell me how yummy it is. Tell me how incredible, how it's the best cheese you've ever tasted in your whole life, and it changes people's lives. That's what I want to hear about. And so it really comes down to, and this, again, websites are just the number one, issue that I see in terms of that kind of communication. Because, we really want to know what's in it for us. What am I going to get if I engage with you? And right. And then it's also, the last thing is, clicking is okay. Like, you want people to click, because every time they click, they're going in deeper, which means they're committing more to what you're talking about. So that's another reason why you don't want to put everything on your homepage, because then there's no reason to go any further, right? You've already told him everything. It's like one of those first dates where you already know like everything about the person, right? You don't want to know everything. We want a little mystery here, but we also want people to engage, and to do that, we need to make them curious. And we need to give them just enough information so they're going to want to explore on their own without us telling you how to do that or what you should be exploring. But you kind of create a narrative, and then you let people find it for themselves.
Oh my gosh, you have, like, again, light bulb moments. They're like ping, pew, pew, pew. Like, if there's a soundtrack of people's lives, it'd be pew, pew, pew. That was like a perfect summary of our conversation, because I think it's such a great starting point. And it did remind me of this other visual, and I'm a visual person. And it's this. How many times have you gone to like a networking meetup, right? And you walk up to a table and you're sitting down, and there's one person that just dominates the table and talks all about themselves, all about their business, all about what, they want out of you, and never ask that question of once of, who are you hey guys, like, what can I do to help you? What can I do to support you? It's me.
Exactly.
You just
Yeah.
summarized everything just now. Literally is this. Whatever content you're putting out there, especially for your webpage, think of yourself as that cocktail party. Don't be that guy that's
Right.
just screaming, look at me, look at me, look at me, and have zero value add. Otherwise, you're just going to be that, oh my gosh, one of those. This is totally random. My ADD is kicking in, but there was this nature video where they did voiceovers, and it was just like this little groundhog thing. It was like, chirp, 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 chirp. That's what my visual is. But anyway,
That's
Orly,
a good one. I hadn't thought about that. So here's what I one way that I would kind of wrap this up is to say, instead of focusing on how great you are, focus on the problem you're trying to solve. And the way to do that is to first ask a question that only you know the answer to. So the thing about asking questions is I assume if you ask the question, you have an answer. So instead of talking about, the how and the what, talk about the why. And so you want to put people in the context of a conversation, because for me, anytime you're talking to someone, the purpose is not to sell them. It's to create a relationship, to engage, to start a conversation. And you know what? Here's the thing. If I find that I'm not a fit, then that's fine too. You've just saved me months of wasting my time,
Exactly.
right? And it's not helping you. So then you're going to shut down and you're not going to listen to anything anyway at that point. So what I'm then interested in is tell me what is keeping you up at night. And let me see if maybe I know somebody in my network who can help you.
Orly, and this is why I love you. Please, you are always welcome back here. And
thank you.
Everyone needs a copy or 10 of Ready Launch Brand. You guys, this is the lean marketing guide. I mean, for business, Orly, everything you have here. And I can't wait for the speaking circuit to come back up again, because I would absolutely go and see you. You're very knowledgeable, you're relatable, you're authentic to everything that we've been talking about today and also previous conversations. You definitely extol it. So thank you so much for your time. For those that want to get more information from you, I did do a banner streaming down here, but any other ways can people reach you?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. Follow me on Twitter. You can get the book actually through Routledge is my publisher, and or on Amazon. And apparently it's on Barnes and Noble too. I did not know that, but it's there as well. So on their barnesandnoble.com, you can actually buy it from them.
That's awesome. Hey, that's big time. That's big time. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Everyone, Orly's the best ever. Zeewy is her last name. Say it correctly. And on that note, everyone, I'm just going to go ahead and spin us off here for the mic is listening. Be safe, be good. And till next week, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.